Thou hast put all things under his feet. All sheep and oxen, yeah, and the beasts of the field. The fowl of the air has its fruit of paths of the sea. Yahweh, how excellent is thy name in all the earth.
Good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing today in the book of Psalms. We're in Psalm 56. It's extra bright this morning. Okay. So, Psalm 56, Miktam of David. And if you're wondering why the first part of the psalm is missing, in Study 55, we discuss why I moved that very difficult to say word. By the way, that might be a better way of looking at it. Jonath Elam Rechokim, probably something like that. All right. The next psalm is Miktam of David, which means engraven. The first Miktam psalm is 16. And this is the one where it says, "Thou shalt not leave my soul in corruption." You know, "Thou wilt not suffer thy Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt not leave my soul in hell." Quoted in Acts by Peter of the Lord Jesus. And so engraven psalms also include 56, I think they're about 60. Those are the ones. I think that's it. There might be one that is not in that little cluster group here in Exodus, beginning with this one. And whatever. If there is, we'll figure it out. It's not that critical to know. Because we're not going to, there are ways in which you could take that concept of engraven and read a lot into it. But, much like instruction, I think of the most passionate, it means, to me, it evokes the idea of passion. Like when the Lord says, "I've graven you on the palms of my hands." I have graven your memory. And it refers to that sort of. When I think of the things that God has spoken of as engraven, it always means, it refers to things like people put on tombs, the engraving on a stele. In fact, the word, whatever. But anyways, so the engraving title gives us that sense of, a very serious, but, all the Psalms seem serious, so I don't know how to make that stand out so much, but they're labeled so, as engraven. When the Philistines took him in Gath, this probably should be this part of the, here we go. All right. "Be merciful unto me, O God, for man would swallow me up. He fighting daily oppresseth me. Mine enemies would daily swallow me up. For they be many that fight against me, O thou most high. What time I am afraid, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do to me. Every day they wrest my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. They gather themselves together. They hide themselves. They mark my steps when they wait for my soul. Shall they escape by iniquity? In thine anger cast down the people, O God. Thou tellest my wanderings. Put thou my tears into thy bottle. Are they not in thy book? When I cry unto thee, then shall my enemies turn back. This I know, for God is for me. In God will I praise his word. In the Lord will I praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not be afraid what man can do unto me. Thy vows are upon me, O God. I will render praises unto thee. For thou hast delivered my soul from death, Wilt not thou deliver my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of the living? Now I wonder. See, it gets confusing to me how he decides which parts of these things. I mean, I get to the chief musician belongs with the next psalm. Okay. All right, 56. I just want to see. Here we go. And okay, apparently, Alta Shith, which does not sound like a nice word, belongs over here. And if you don't know why, well, wait a second. Grabbed way too much. There we go. Let's say, nice. Be merciful unto me, O God. Be merciful unto me. All right, now it's back together. This one also. Be merciful unto me. Did I have 58 up there yet? Yeah. No. So, but the first two start with that same plea for mercy. And we know how important mercy is. We talk about it all the time. Now, as far as he's looking for mercy because of his time sojourning among the Philistines. You know, David is known for having killed Goliath, the giant, right? And also for many wars against the Philistines. But during the time when he was fleeing from Saul, at one point he begins to live among the Philistines because, you know, my enemy's enemy is my friend. You know, if Saul is unhappy with David, the Philistines have no interest in turning him over. At least not at that, you know, at least it never occurred to them that they might have an interest in that. They were more interested in whatever, using Saul's enemy. So, when the Philistines took him, that's like the second part of the first, that's like the latter part of 1 Samuel. The first I looked this up. The first mention is in 21 of Samuel. There's not much to go there. There's no, it's like, yeah, he came to the Philistines in Gath, or, wait, took him in Gath. Whatever. He spent some time among the Philistines, but actually, it was the king of Achish. Was he the king of Gath? Now I'm confused. Wait a second. Wait. Oh, Achish is the king of Gath? Is that it? Oh, he's the king of Gath. Achish. And so they talk about David, and they don't mention the fact that, yeah, he fled to Gath, and of course they captured him immediately. So when he's captured, this is his prayer. Or this is a psalm he wrote commemorating it, perhaps. You know, because he's like, that at that moment, what was in my heart, or whatever. You know, I don't know exactly if it means at that time, or in remembrance of that, or on reflection upon that. You know, it could mean any of those. David might have written it 50 years later. At that time, the Philistines took him in Gath. Like, what was my prayer? What would I say to a young man taken in a same situation? What would I tell him to talk? You know, to speak to the Lord. So it could be any of those. So he calls out for mercy because in the face of the enemy, what else? You know, we want mercy from God. We see the enemy bearing down on us. We see our enemies surrounding us and having power over us. We need God to be merciful because He is the only thing more powerful at that point. When we're in the power of the enemy, when we can't help ourselves, you know, all we have hope in is God. Because, hold on. Because as he says, man would swallow me up. Man would swallow me up. And he fights daily to oppress me. He fighting daily to oppress me. I think it is maybe he is fighting daily. That seems like a bad translation of the King James. But I mean, I get it. The enemy is fighting daily and oppressing me. Okay. I think, well, he's speaking that men would swallow him up, and also that he already suffers under the daily oppression of man. That's the fight. I wonder, I do want to look that up a little bit. I'm like, okay. I just want to see what it says in another translation. And I'll bring you along for the ride. Here we go. Here we go into Psalm 56. So let's try New American Standard. I don't want to mess around with the NIV. Well, this might be a time when I wouldn't mind the NIV, especially if this is pretty much the same thing. Let's see. Be gracious to me, for a man has trampled upon me. Sorry. There we go. All right. Well. Be gracious to me, God, for a man has trampled upon me. Fighting all day long, he oppresses me. My enemies have trampled me all day long, for there are many who fight proudly against me. Oh, what? I'm reading the next. I started reading the scripture. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's a different take. So they make it a little more clear. I like the New American Standard and thinking that, okay, this is an individual. There's a man who wants to swallow me up, fighting daily oppresses me. That makes sense about Saul. My enemies would daily swallow me up, for they be many that fight against me, O thou most high. Saul's the king. And also, the Philistines were enemies. And actually, when he came to the Philistines, it wasn't like they were like, oh, we'll receive you. The lords of the Philistines were extremely skeptical of him. And they definitely thought, there was definitely some thinking that said, like, why don't we just kill this guy? How about that? Isn't he the one that said, like, that they were saying David had slain Saul hath slain his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000s? Isn't this the great enemy we feared? Anyway, so isn't he that guy? So why should we put up with him? There were enemies among the Philistines because the Philistines were his enemies, and he was having to seek refuge among his enemies. So this is a rough spot to be in, where you're driven from your home country, treated like treated like an enemy, like a traitor, essentially. David who was never a traitor in any sense of the word, David, as far, thinking of, there is a sort of a betrayal of his friend, Uriah, the Hittite. But, that was not that was really that's adultery. There's a sort of a thing there. But as far as like his king in those matters, what other matters, that he wasn't, that he was a faithful servant in all those things. He's not treachery. The thing with Uriah was not planned. The thing with Bathsheba, that wasn't planned. That was passion. Usually betrayal involves like a decisive thinking of, like, well, to hell with them, But anyways, he was faithful to the king of the Philistines, the king of Gath. Hold on a second. While he dwelt among them. But they definitely did not trust him. Well, let's move on. So he had enemies on every side. And so that's a position you might find yourself in, where you feel completely abandoned and alone in the world. We only have God to turn to. But, that is the greatest refuge there can be. What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. When the time comes, when I am afraid, my only choice is to trust in God. When I'm afraid, I have to trust in God. There's no other thing other than there's just terror and fear on every side. You can either give way to, insane, chattering, jabbering, fear, or you can, Hearken and trust unto the Lord. Sorry, the phone call distracted me because I need to return that call. We started late. So we're going to finish the study when we come to the end of this psalm. I almost canceled the study today, so nobody's going to cry if it's less than an hour. Okay, so. In God I will praise his word. In God have I put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do to me. The fact that, and this goes back to, the engraven thing. And like I said, it has something to do. Engraving is what you put on a tombstone, and that's not a coincidence. These psalms definitely have a "I will rise again" feeling to them. The Miktam psalms, especially 16. You will not suffer my soul to see corruption. And in spite of all the enemies surrounding me, like a grave they enclose me. That I will rise again through the power of God. I will trust in the Lord and not be afraid of what men can do to me. Because here's the thing. It's not say I won't believe that they can kill me. It's not that. No, it's not. I refuse to believe they will kill me. I'm invincible. No, it's not that. It's that all they can do is kill me. So I will not be afraid of what they can do to me because I trust in the Lord. I trust in the Lord, so I do not fear what man can do to me, and they can kill you. And so he's saying, I will not be afraid of that. I refuse to be afraid of that. Because as Jesus said, and this is something that Jesus said, and he's following on the way that David spoke of such things. That fear not them that kill the body, but afterwards there's no more they can do. But fear rather he that can destroy both soul and body in hell. I will not fear flesh can do to me. Every day they wrest my words. They wrest. I want the precise definition of that word, because before I start getting too along with that, they wrest my words. The word says it means displease. I'm just going to another translation. King James, you're letting me down. They distort my words. That's what I thought. Like wrest, to twist, and like with wrestle means to kind of, atzab, to hurt, pain, or grieve. But the idea is that they grieve his words, they pain his words, they do violence to his word. Whatever. In this, it must mean in this, to carve. Also, it means to carve. Vex, hurt my words. This is the same thing. Here's my words, and they're like, bam, bam. It's like, those aren't my words. You're messing up my words. Just like when people twist your words into something you didn't say. And it's obvious that's what he's trying to say. They twist my words into something I didn't say. All their thoughts against me for evil. Again, that happens. I mean, I've had this happen in arguments with people plenty of times where you say something, it's like, it's not what you said. But people hear something. They hear something else. Like they hear it differently. And this used to bug me a lot. It still does when it rarely happens, because I don't get a lot of arguments. I don't search them out, and so I don't. Not lately. I'm too busy. I don't have a lot of time to sit around arguing with people. But you feel like I used to, but I realize it's not entirely. Sometimes on a personal level, it's not what you think. It's not like they're intentionally trying to twist your words. It's just. I don't recognize that number. I want to I got a drawer here. I can still hear it. All right, whatever. When their thoughts are against you, their intention is, well, I was saying, like, on a person-to-person level, your enemies will do this intentionally. They'll look for things you say and try to twist them around to what you didn't say and try to use that against you. That happens plenty of times. But I mean, sometimes on a personal level, I felt like that happens with someone who's closer to me, like they were twisting my words. But and sometimes maybe in the heat of an argument, people do that. But also sometimes people hear your words differently. You don't know what you say something to someone, and you're not thinking about how that sounds. So that's different. But enemies will intentionally take your words and do violence to them. They will twist them around, just like Jesus. This man said he would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. That was an accusation they leveled against him. He didn't say that. But again, it was close enough. It was what he said was close enough that they could legitimately twist it, and people go like, "I think I heard him say that." Other people go, "Oh yeah, that's what he said." For example, and I've had this happen to me. I said to someone once, back I was talking to him, and it's like, when I was a younger dad, I changed more diapers. With the last kid, I hardly changed any diapers. With the 8th child, I said I hardly changed any diapers. Right? Well, it comes back to me a couple weeks later. All the women said 8 kids, and he's never changed a diaper. That son of a, what? You know what I mean? That's how willing people are to hate me. They're just ready and raring. They just can't wait. 8 children has never changed a diaper. Right? Now, I didn't say that, and that's not true. That's not true. I've changed diapers, and thankfully, my friend said to someone who was repeating this untruth, well, maybe his wife has never plunged a toilet, and that is true. Maybe she's never plunged a toilet. It's like it's like sometimes there's something called the distribution of labor. But I have changed diapers, thank you, plenty of them. So not that I'm proud. I'd rather people think I don't change any diapers. I think that's funnier. Like I've never changed one. Yeah, not one. Get angry, ladies. Get angry. It's so ridiculous. But anyways, like they did that to Jesus too. They took his words. He said, destroy this temple and I'll build it again in 3 days. Speaking of his body. Now, but it's easy to take that. He knew that was easy to take wrong, but he let him do it. He used that. He used that in a figure. He talked about the temple as if it was himself. He told them to destroy the temple. But then it came back, he said he would destroy the temple and build it again in 3 days. I'll destroy the temple and build it again in 3 days. What's funny? That may be true. When he returns, he may destroy whatever is there and build again in a very short period of time. Which would be a funny bit of irony, if he actually did destroy the temple and build it again in 3 days. Which is something he hadn't said he did, but he was accused of, and it turned out to be true. They gather themselves together. They hide themselves. They mark my steps. When they wait for my soul. They're looking at what I do, and they're trying to. They're definitely keeping an eye on me and marking my steps. They're watching what I do, so they can find out some way in which I'm weak and vulnerable, and they can find out how to destroy me. Some people who will do that, they'll watch you and wait and look for your vulnerabilities. They want to find out, where are they weak? What is the thing that hurts them? How can I get at them? It's a fearful thing. The enemies are, until you encounter an enemy, someone who regards themselves, someone who's genuinely hostile to you. It can be, if you've never encountered that in life, it can be stunning when you encounter genuine malevolence directed towards yourself. Because we live in a polite society that in general we try to discourage these things. But if you've been to public school, you've gotten a bit of it, I'm sure. We've all seen malevolence in one form or another. We should have. Maybe not that genuine and terrible malevolence like of Satan. Hold on, we're going to pause a second. I gotta blow my nose. The sad part is that doesn't really help because I'm not actually. It's just. I think it's just the time of year or something. I'm just glad it isn't running. Okay. If I just accept that I have no nostrils, I can talk fine. Or I should just do that. Just accept that I can't use them. Okay. Just enunciate very carefully. Okay, they gather themselves together, they mark their steps when they wait for my soul. They mark my steps. Shall they escape by iniquity? Again, it's kind of jumping ahead a bit, but yeah, people do iniquity and they think they will escape the judgment of God. Or that they could use evil to save themselves. Escape by evil, escape by iniquity. You're like, okay, how do I get out of this problem? Well, I'll kill the person who's escaping by iniquity. Here you go. I'm about to be tried for murder. How do I get out of it? I'll kill the witness. I'll intimidate the jury. Hold on a second. My nose is actually big. All right, here we go. Picture back. Okay. A blue bed isn't really helping much. Okay, so shall they escape by iniquity? In their anger, cast down the people. Oh God. Referring then, it doesn't mean like all the people. It's the people that gather themselves together. The crowd that's against me. There's the people that are against me. There's the people, but there's like these people, they're after me. It's not just one person. They twist my words. They're thinking against me for evil. They're like, how could we do him harm? Continually. Oh, it's itching like crazy. Maybe I'll sneeze here. Hold on.
Thou hast held things under his feet. All sheep and oxen, yeah, and the beasts of the field.
That was effectual. That feels a lot better. So here we go. I don't know how long it'll last, but okay. Tiny bit of air. Okay, they rest. They gather themselves together. They hide themselves. They mark my steps. They wait for my soul. We did that. And Matt, when he says they wait for my soul, I mean they're looking to take my life. They're not just waiting for me to come along so they can say, "Hey, David." They're waiting so that they may take his soul out of the world by killing him. Shall they escape by iniquity? No. In thy anger cast down the people, O God. These awful people who are coming after me. You tell all my wonders. You also mark my steps. You know where I go. Put my tears into thy bottle. Are they not in thy book? So, the idea of this, are my tears in your bottle? The Lord He knows all of our sorrows. He knows all of our cares. He sympathizes with us in a great many of them. As far as he knows, he's touched with the feelings of our infirmities through the Lord Jesus. I mean, he's been touched. It's not just a question of, trust me, I understand you. It's like, no. I understand because I have gone through the same things. He lived with the same sadnesses and tragedies we do. And they affected him in a real way. They mark my steps when they wait for me. They're waiting for me and watching me and marking. This is where they're trying. They're just learning all about him to destroy him. There are people focused on me who their only intention of focusing on me is to destroy me. You also mark me, Lord. You also are watching me. And he says, take all my sorrow, please, and put it into thy bottle. Save it up. Remember my sadness. It's like, there's a feeling like that man, the purpose of man in killing you is really awful. And they want to take and just snuff out your conscious life. Destroy everything you have in the world. Take it from you violently. Snuff you out. That they can do whatever, take your things. They won't have any more trouble from you. There's all kinds of evil purposes that they snuff people out for. They do it. And it's extreme. It's very wicked. You think about it. Right? And they would have, like cancel culture. They want to, like, when I got canceled, my then publisher removed all my music from all the music services. They removed it from everywhere. There will come a time, if they have their way, where they will try to scrub you from the internet. No doubt. I'm just saying, like, that's where that leads, where they want to erase your existence. And it's possible. Man could burn every book a certain person has ever written. And there was a movie I remember where someone had memorized the Bible, and that was like the last copy because people had burned them all or something. Whatever. I didn't think the premise was plausible, but it was a good movie. I just didn't think that in the event of apocalypse, everyone's just going to blame the Bible and burn it, and then they're going to have to try to find like liberals to save it or something like that. It's just BS. It just is. But like, the idea that, men can snuff you out, and the things you're upset about, the things you're sad about, that they would just be forgotten. And then all your toils and pains would be for nothing. Like I think about, hold on a second, I gotta blow my nose. It's just gotta happen one more time. Sorry that happens so much today. But there I used to the sound is on good. I back up all the things I work on. I got songs, they're backed up, my music's backed up, right? You should back up your stuff because the computer can fail and you lose it, okay? And then at one point I started backing up off-site. Well, what if my house burns down? Then the backups and the computer and everything's gone. It's all gone. All the papers are gone, so I have a backup on a different site. But even then, someone dedicated who knew that fact could try to destroy all my works. All the things I've done, all the works I put into the recordings and stuff like that. And so what if they did? I've taken comfort. I'm like, well, the only place it matters, they're written forever. They're written forever in heaven. And the things that I do, if they're any good, if there's any value to them, if there's anything worthwhile in them being preserved, then they're written in heaven. My songs are recorded forever. Like God forever has his own personal copy that he can. Oh, Paul, you lost that? I got it. You missing that? I got it. You lost this thing? I got it all. He has it all. He has all your tears, every plea. The only thing he seems to have lost track is all the sins. He got rid of all that stuff. That bottle seems to have fallen out the back of the car or something. He forgives our sins, but he does. But all those other things, he still tallies those. It's not only your sins he's been looking at. He looks at all your works, all your ways. He watches all your steps, just the way the enemy does. Except he's not looking at you with hostility. He's looking at you with love and with care, with a desire to bring you to himself. That is Here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand. They think that God's desire is or his purpose is to make them happy or make them have a good life, or that God should be some sort of genie for them to provide all the things they need, that they should be blessed because why? Because they believe in him, and therefore they should have, they've won the prize. Through their faith now, God just sort of should just dump blessings on them because they figured out he's real. They decided to believe in him. That's not how it works. God is not. God does want to bless us, but it is not like that. He wants good for us, but the good he wants for us is that we should come to him and become his sons. And becoming his sons is not just magic. As far as it's not just like something he snaps his fingers and it happens because he declared it happened, and then you're transformed because he transforms you. And there is an element of that, and that's that to me is the most powerful part of it. But because he does transform us, but there's also a slower transformation or the sanctification process, whereby you become more like him through abiding in him and by being in the faith over a period of time. That being in the faith has an outgrowth on you. It's going to change you. It's going to make you more like Christ. It needs to. If it doesn't, then there's something wrong. That's all I can say. Something's up. It's like, well, your faith is there's a problem. And if we have no growth, no changes. Put your tears in my bottle. Save up my sorrows. Don't forget me. Are they not in thy book? Don't you write up the book? Meaning, with God remembers all the things we go through. When we go through it, he remembers. The works we do, he remembers. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Which means, do things on the world that when you get to God, he's going to be set to reward you. He's going to have a good opinion of you. You don't want to be yet saved yet so as by fire, as it talks about in the New Testament, where you go up there and all your works are burned. Everything you did is worthless for the Lord. At least it's not an enemy. I can say that. I was like, well, I don't really think that is, that extreme. That might be the thief on the cross. Saved so as by fire. He was saved so as by fire. He saved on the cross. He, at the right last moment, he said the right thing. The guy was like, nope, okay. All your works are burned. The sins and all the other rest of it too, but you are saved, yet so as by fire. And you can see how he was kind of going through the fire. That's a portrait of someone saved, yet so as by fire. You don't want to take that route. Here's the thing. If you already know Christ, you don't have that route available to you. If you've lived more than a day since you've known him, you don't have that route available to you. If you're still alive now, you don't have the right. If you're not hanging on a cross right now, you likely don't have that route available to you. You have to be at the right place at the right time. I gotta blow my nose, even if it doesn't work. Okay, through my nose. God is for me. I will pray. So God treasures up the things we feel, the passions. It's something that God does take note of. He knows how we feel. He knows of the deep sorrows we feel, the sadnesses. I've prayed to the Lord many times with great passion. And I know he remembers me. It's like because he says he would. And there can be, if God must hear, is I guess what I was about to say in a more complicated way. Hold on a second. Okay. So when I cried to thee, then shall my enemies turn back. This I know, for God is with me. So he said his trust is that When I put my reliance, when I cry unto you, what he's saying is, I cry unto you because I trust the Lord, because I know that's where my salvation is. I know He's the one who's going to save me. So he's also saying, faith, when I cry to you, my enemies will turn back, because when I cry to you, what he's assuming is you will respond and help me to turn my enemies back. If I cry to you, then my enemies are going to turn back. I can cry into my pillow. I can cry to my friends. I can cry to my wife, but that doesn't help. I have to cry to you, because God is for me. I know this because God is for me. All right, 1 second. And God will I praise, I know God is for me. A lot of times, do you feel God is for you? You should. If you have faith, He is for you. And I'll be surprised if I can't get you to tell me about ways in which He has proven that to you in your very life. The ways in which you've lived, that God has shown Himself to you, and that He does favor you. I feel exceedingly favored by God. And I'm very conscious of that fact. It gives me a little bit of pause too. I was thinking, like, He showed me great favor. It's great, but it also, I know that means something. That means I have a responsibility. Being shown so much favor, being given much is expected. And so I look. It does not fill my heart with pride. It fills me with a sense of, okay, if He's given me much, then much might be required in exchange. It's like I may have to pay for all this in some way. Not in that way, like for salvation, but there is something to pay. Teachers have to use their gifts. Prophets have to use their gifts. But it also comes at a price, because when a prophet or a teacher uses their gift properly, in the right circumstances, men are not happy with it. They don't like what you say. They're going to want to kill you. They may even kill you. And that's the thing. It's like, I know that being given great gifts at the right time might mean you are the one who is slated to die, in the name of the Lord. And so it is a heavy responsibility to consider that. And if you don't consider, you're being overly dramatic. Sure, that's fine. But lest you get puffed up with pride into your position, it is better to think of these things, sobering thoughts. Yes, it's like, not so much like to think like, whoa, they might go, but like, and not to be dramatic about it, but just the sense of like being aware that there's a cost associated with it potentially. Meaning, I don't see it as like, oh boy, I when I was younger, I thought like, oh yeah, I want to be a prophet or something. I want to serve God. And then when I'm older, I'm like, yeah, prophets are often killed. Do you want to be a prophet? And the thing is, I'll tell you what, I won't turn back from it, but I do, as an older person now, as a person who's almost, I'm 48. I look at it differently. When I was 21, I thought, yeah, let's go. And now I'm 20, I'm 48, and I look back and I'm like, that was hasty. That young man had no idea. Like, I at least understand. And I accept it, what it could mean. But a lot of times people don't. God is for me. I know God is for me. But the more He is for me, the more I look at, like, He was for David too. David spent a lot of time running from his enemies and being chased down. And it's like, we know of David's great faith because it was tried so much. Because there were so many times where it was like, you think, why do you still trust the Lord? But he continually trusted the Lord in spite of all the bad things that happened to him, all the difficulties he had to go through. He trusted in God and in His mercy to deliver him from it all. I'm sorry. Call me. I got it. I meant to hit the unmute, but I hit stop recording. But that's okay because we're still streaming. So In God will I praise his word. In the Lord will I praise his word. So again, using different, it'd be like Elohim here and in Yahweh. So calling God by a more of a title and then by his name. In God have I put my trust. I will not be afraid of what man can do unto me. So that's a repetition of that. He's praising the word of the Lord, because the word of the Lord is by which we have by which we trust God. We trust God because we have his word. You know? And so when we praise God, we're kind of praising what we've heard of him, his word. You know, what we heard of God, we heard by the word. What we know of God came by the word. What we, even when God appeared in flesh, it was called the word. Because that is how we know God. That is how God has manifested himself to man, by his word. And as a man who was the living word. The word made flesh that dwelt among us. I will not be. There are things we may have to do, depending on your gifts. Thy vows are upon me, O God. I will render praises unto thee. For thou hast delivered my soul from death. Wilt thou not deliver my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of the living? On Altashith. I never looked that up. I want to see that. Altashith. Well, that's actually the next psalm in the old way of reckoning. Oh, I got to go to the King James first. Whatever. Okay. Any second now. Altashith. There we go. Altashith. Whatever. It's just going to... I meant to open a new window, but it's just going to open there. Okay. Let's go back and talk about things while that's loading. So thy vows are upon me. I will, meaning the vows I have made to God, they're God's vows. So, or the things that God has vowed that he would do. I've sworn by myself, this is what I would do. I will, the things you promised. I'm not sure if he, because sometimes it's hard to tell if he means, thy vows, meaning my vows that belong to you, that I've made to God, are therefore his. I mean, he has, pay up your vows, pay up my vows. They belong, in that sense. That could be wrong, though. But if it's generally, and your promises are on me, so that would be a good reason not to fear what man would do. So that would make sense. Those might be the case. And both can be true in a sense, right? So, like I said, it's it doesn't. You have to be right about the translation to be right about the truth. That's the good part. So everybody knows just making weird noises. It's just very. It's like a dry thing. It's I can't. There's nothing to blow out hardly. It's thick. For thou hast delivered my soul from death. Well, no. Okay. Here we go. Altashith. Alright, I'm not getting much luck here. Let's try this. Hold on. I just want to make sure it starts loading for me. There we go. Oh, now I got it. Altashith. Destroying a lot of different melodies over things. And also, it's not critical that it be exactly right. If you're going to give me life from death, you will also prevent my feet from falling. And that is a metaphor for accidental, for some sort of stumbling into trouble. I can't, if I die in an accident, it's not an accident. It's of God. However things happen to me, it's not going to be an accident what's happened to me. You will stop my feet from falling. I'm not going to just, like I said, no one's going to go stumbling into hell. As far as someone who's trying to follow Christ is going to, and no one who wants to serve Jesus genuinely and is sincerely has faith in him is going to accidentally through just, while putting forth sincere effort, being somehow just a little bit misled. I just don't believe in that. I just think that doesn't make sense. Because God is not, it makes God like he's hostile and kind of tricky, and that's not how God is. You know, he's not like this trickster who's trying to like, oh, is he going to stumble into hell? He keeps us from falling. He keeps our feet, because of our, the idea of man stumbles, because our feet are a long way from our head. Sometimes we don't see what's down there, right? And totally innocently, we make mistakes as I could be. I'm not as strong as I could be. I'm not as wise or as righteous or anything as I could be, or should be, right? I'm not as competent as I could be or should be. Sorry. I'm tired of muting. I'm not, there's so much more I could be, like just all your failings, all your immutable, the parts of your character that are just not, you can't do anything about it. You're just not up to snuff. Well, that's not going to bring you down. Your feet will not fall. It's not going to be because my feet, my terrible feet, they just can't carry me where I need to go. They stumble. I got 2 left feet, like we say. We blame our bodies. We say like, well, I'd make it to heaven, but I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to make it to heaven. Hold on, let's see. Dude, doing Psalm 57 next week. Until then, I hope my sinuses are better next week. I'm really sorry about that. Until then, I lost my music. Okay, here we go.
Thou hast held things under his feet. All sheep and oxen